Billionaire sees a poor mother with baby twins rummaging through the trash on Christmas Eve. What he does is unbelievable. Snow fell slowly over the downtown streets, covering everything with a thin, icy layer. Store windows sparkled with colored lights, and families hurried past, carrying bags full of gifts. It was Christmas Eve, and the entire city seemed wrapped in an atmosphere of joy and anticipation, but not everyone felt it. Claire was crouched beside a dumpster on a busy street corner, her hands trembling from the cold as she rummaged through plastic bags, searching for anything that might be useful. Beside her, in an old worn baby carriage, two little girls slept wrapped in thin blankets, their cheeks, pink from the cold, contrasted with the light blonde hair escaping from their frayed wool hats. Their closed eyes were surrounded by almost transparent lashes. They were no more than a few months old. Claire pulled out a half-opened packet of cookies from the trash. It was damp, but still seemed edible. She put it in the pocket of her threadbare coat and continued searching. Her eyes were red, not only from the cold, but also from exhaustion and frustration. Less than a year ago, her life was completely different. She had a husband, a small but comfortable home, and plans for the future. But everything fell apart so quickly that she barely had time to process it. First, the accident that took his life. Then, the debts she didn't even know existed. And finally, the eviction 3 weeks ago, which left her on the streets with 2 newborn babies. She tried asking for help. She knocked on the doors of acquaintances, called social assistance numbers, and looked for shelters. But the beds were always full, and no one seemed to have a quick solution. Meanwhile, the girls needed to eat, and they needed warmth. One of the babies started crying softly, a weak, tired cry. Claire dropped the trash bag and went to the carriage, rocking it slowly. "Shh, my love. It will be okay soon." But she didn't know if that was true. The other baby woke up too, and both began whimpering together. Claire felt a knot in her throat. She no longer had breast milk. She didn't have money to buy formula. She had nothing. "I'm sorry," she whispered, stroking their little faces with her freezing hand. Tears began to stream down her face, but she quickly wiped them away. She couldn't afford to break down now. She had to be strong. She went back to rummaging through the trash, ignoring the disapproving looks of the people passing by. Some avoided her path, others simply pretended not to see. Claire was already used to it. The snow kept falling, and the cold seemed to penetrate her bones. Claire pulled her coat closer to her body and blew on her hands to try and warm them. The girls were crying louder now, and she knew it wasn't just hunger. It was cold, discomfort. Claire felt desperation rising in her throat. She looked around, seeing happy people going in and out of stores, loaded with gifts and smiles. "We're cold and hungry," she muttered to herself, her voice cracking. "We're cold and hungry." It was then that she heard approaching footsteps, firm steps, but unhurried. Claire looked up and saw a man standing a few feet away, watching her. He was tall, wearing a dark, impeccably tailored overcoat, with his hands in his pockets. His eyes were serious, but there was no judgment in them. Claire felt a mixture of shame and anger. Just another person who would stand there, staring as if she were a sad street spectacle. She went back to rummaging in the trash, trying to ignore him, but the man didn't move. He remained there, watching in silence. After a few seconds that felt like an eternity, he finally spoke. "Don't you want to spend Christmas at home?" His voice was deep, but there was a hint of kindness in it. Claire looked up again, surprised by the question. What kind of question was that? Of course, she wanted to spend Christmas at home. Everyone did. "I don't have a home," she replied, her voice coming out harsher than intended. The man nodded slowly, as if he had expected this answer. He took his hands out of his pockets and took a step forward. "I do." Claire frowned, confused. She looked at him with suspicion. Men offering help on the street rarely had good intentions. "I don't need charity," she said, turning her attention back to the carriage. One of the babies was still crying, and Claire picked her up, cradling her against her chest. "It's not charity," the man said, his voice calm. "It's Christmas." Claire didn't answer. She continued cradling the baby, feeling the tiny body tremble with cold. The little girl's light eyes were full of tears, and Claire felt her heart break. The man moved a little closer. He stopped beside the carriage and looked at the babies. "How old are they?" "4 months," Claire replied, still suspicious. "They're twins." He nodded, and for a moment he was silent, just looking at the girls. Then he raised his eyes to Claire. "And my place is 10 minutes from here. I have hot food, and it's a safe place, heating. You can spend the night there. No strings attached, no hidden motives. I just don't want you to spend Christmas on the street." Claire stared at him, trying to figure out if this was real or some kind of trap. But there was something in his eyes that made her hesitate. He seemed sincere. "Why would you do that?" The man shrugged, but the gesture wasn't casual. When he spoke, the words came out slowly, laden with meaning. "Because I've been hungry myself, and I know the pain of having nothing." Claire felt a pang in her chest. She looked at the babies, who were still crying softly, and then at the man in front of her. All her defenses screamed not to trust, not to accept. But she was tired. Tired of fighting alone, tired of seeing her daughters suffer, and deep down, she knew she had no choice. "Okay," she finally said, her voice trembling, "but just for tonight." The man nodded, and for the first time, something that might be a smile crossed his lips. "Just for tonight." He took the carriage and began pushing it down the street. Claire walked beside him, holding the baby in her arms and trying to process what was happening. She didn't know who this man was. She didn't know if she could trust him. But at that moment, she had no other option. They walked in silence through the illuminated streets. The snow kept falling, but now it seemed less hostile. The man walked with firm steps, but occasionally looked back to make sure Claire was keeping up. After a few minutes, the man stopped in front of a sleek building. The facade was modern, with large glass windows and a lighted entrance. A uniformed doorman greeted the man with a respectful nod and opened the door for them. "Good evening, Mr. Ryan." Claire hesitated at the entrance, feeling completely out of place. She was wearing dirty clothes, her hair was disheveled, and she was carrying a baby while the other slept in the shabby carriage. Ryan noticed her hesitation. "It's okay, please come in." Claire took a deep breath and stepped inside. The warmth of the entrance hall enveloped her like a hug, and she felt her legs weaken. It had been so long since she had felt real warmth. They took the elevator up to one of the highest floors. The baby in her arms began to calm down with the heat, her light eyes blinking slowly. When the doors opened, Ryan pushed the carriage to a door at the end of the corridor and opened it. The apartment was large and impeccably decorated. There was a Christmas tree in the corner of the living room, adorned with gold and silver lights. The dining table was set with plates, silverware and crystal glasses, and the smell of home-cooked food filled the air. Claire felt her stomach rumble. "Come in," Ryan said, taking off his overcoat. "You can leave the carriage nearby." Claire obeyed, still in shock. She carefully put the baby back in the carriage and just stood there. The girls had stopped crying, as if sensing they were finally in a safe place. Ryan went to the kitchen and returned with a steaming bowl of soup. "Sit down." "You must be hungry." Claire sat down slowly, as if afraid she might break something. He placed the bowl in front of her and went back to get fresh bread and a glass of water. Claire looked at the food and felt her eyes fill with tears. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice choked. Ryan nodded and sat at the other end of the table, watching her in silence as she began to eat. Claire tried to go slowly, but the hunger was so great that she could barely control herself. The soup was delicious, with a home-cooked flavor she hadn't tasted in months. "What about you? Aren't you going to eat?" "I already ate." "Make yourself comfortable." Claire went back to eating, and after a few minutes, Ryan got up and went to the carriage. He carefully picked up one of the babies. Claire stopped eating for a second, watching him. "It's okay. I just want them to be more comfortable." He sat down on the sofa, cradling the baby gently. The blonde girl opened her light eyes for a second, looked at him, and then closed them again, relaxing in his arms. For the first time in weeks, Claire felt something akin to relief. She finished eating in silence. When she looked up, she saw Ryan still sitting on the sofa, looking at the baby in his arms with a strange expression. There was sadness there. "What's your name?" she asked. He looked up at her. "Ryan." Claire, and they are Emma and Lily. Ryan nodded, looking at the baby in his arms. They're beautiful. Claire felt a lump in her throat. No one had said that in a long time. Ryan then spoke again, his voice soft. You can sleep in the guest room. There's a crib there that might work for the girls. Claire nodded, still processing everything. She didn't know what to think of this man, but she was too grateful to question it. Thank you. Seriously, thank you. Ryan nodded, and for the first time, Claire saw something that might be a genuine smile on his face. "Yours Merry Christmas, Claire." She felt a knot in her throat, but managed to smile back. "Merry Christmas, Ryan." Ryan carefully stood up, still holding the baby, and nodded for Claire to follow him. She picked up the other girl from the carriage, and together they walked down the hall to the guest room. The room was simple but cozy, with a large bed covered with a white comforter, a light wood dresser, and, yes, a crib in the corner. "I'll get some clean clothes and towels," Ryan said, carefully putting the baby in the crib. "The bathroom is right there. You can take a shower if you want." Claire just nodded. When Ryan left the room, she sat on the bed and looked around. This was real. She was actually there, in a safe, warm place, one with her daughters. She picked up the babies and placed them in the crib together, covering them with the soft blankets. They fell asleep almost immediately, their little blonde faces relaxed and peaceful. Claire then allowed herself to cry. She cried from relief, from exhaustion, from gratitude. She cried for everything she had lost and for everything she still had. Ryan returned a few minutes later with clean towels and a large t-shirt. He placed everything on the bed. "Rest. If you need anything, my room is the last one down the hall." Claire wiped her tears and looked at him. "Why are you doing this?" Ryan was silent for a moment, looking at the sleeping babies. "Because someone did it for me once. When I had nothing, someone gave me a chance, and it changed everything." He left the room, carefully closing the door. Claire sat on the bed for a few more minutes, just looking at her daughters sleeping peacefully. For the first time in weeks, they were not cold or hungry, they were safe. She stood up and went to the bathroom. The hot water fell over her cold body, and she felt her muscles relax. There was shampoo, soap, everything clean and fragrant. Claire washed her hair for the first time in days, cleaned the street grime, and when she stepped out of the shower, she felt almost human again. She put on the t-shirt Ryan had left and returned to the room. The babies were still sleeping, their little chests rising and falling at a peaceful rhythm. Claire lay down on the bed, her body sinking into the soft mattress. She couldn't remember the last time she had slept in a real bed. In recent days, it had been the cold floor of crowded shelters or park benches when she couldn't find a spot anywhere. She closed her eyes, but couldn't sleep immediately. Her mind was still processing everything that had happened. A few hours ago, she was rummaging through trash, hopeless, not knowing how she would survive. And now she was there, in a warm, safe apartment, with her daughters well fed and sleeping peacefully, and all because of a stranger named Ryan. Claire didn't know who he was, or why he had done this, but that night he had been the answer to a prayer she didn't even know she was making. She finally closed her eyes and let sleep take her. And on that cold Christmas Eve night, two strangers and two little babies found something none of them expected, a place to belong, even if it was just for one night. Claire woke up to sunlight streaming through the window. For a moment, she didn't know where she was. Then, the memories of the previous night came back, the snow, the dumpster, the stranger who brought her home. Ryan. She quickly sat up in bed and looked at the crib. The twins were still sleeping, their little blonde faces tranquil and relaxed. Claire felt immense relief flood her. They were okay. They were safe. She got up slowly, trying not to make a sound, and walked to the crib. Emma and Lily slept side by side, their small hands intertwined. Claire smiled, feeling her eyes fill with tears. It was the first time in weeks that they had slept all night, without waking up crying from hunger or cold. Claire looked around the room. The morning light revealed details she hadn't noticed the night before. The room was simple, but it had everything she needed. There was even a comfortable chair in the corner, perfect for sitting and nursing the babies. She walked to the window and looked out. The city was covered in snow and the sun made everything sparkle. It was Christmas. She had completely forgotten. Claire sighed and returned to the bed, sitting on the edge. She didn't know what to do. Ryan had said it was only for one night. That meant she would have to leave today, go back to the streets, go back to the cold. The thought made her feel a pang in her chest, but she had no choice. She couldn't abuse a stranger's kindness. The baby started stirring, and Claire went to the crib. Lily opened her light eyes first, looking around curiously. Then Emma woke up too, and the two started making soft, cooing sounds. "Good morning, my darlings," Claire whispered, picking them up one at a time. "Let's change these diapers, okay?" She looked around searching for diapers, but didn't see any. The only ones she had were in the old bag she had left next to the carriage. Claire carefully placed the babies back in the crib and left the room. The apartment was silent. Claire walked down the hall, trying not to make a sound. She found her bag next to the carriage, exactly where she had left it. She took the last 2 diapers she had and returned to the room. After changing the girls, Claire realized they were hungry. She had no formula, and her milk had dried up days ago. Her own stomach was rumbling too. She didn't want to ask Ryan for anything else, but the babies needed to eat. Claire took a deep breath and left the room with the twins in her arms. She walked to the living room, but didn't see Ryan anywhere. Then she heard sounds coming from the kitchen. She walked there and found Ryan making coffee. He was dressed casually, in a grey t-shirt and sweatpants. When he saw her, he nodded in greeting. "Morning." "Good morning," Claire replied, her voice low. "Sorry to bother you, but the girls are hungry." "I don't have formulas and I bought some," Ryan said, pointing to the counter. Claire looked and saw 2 cans of infant formula, still sealed. She felt her eyes fill with tears again. "Thank you. I'll pay you back. Somehow." Ryan just nodded and returned to making coffee. Claire prepared the bottles with shaky hands, still processing his kindness. When she finished, she sat on the couch and began feeding the babies. Ryan appeared a few minutes later with 2 cups of coffee. He placed one on the side table next to Claire and sat in the armchair with the other. They sat in silence for a few minutes, with only the sound of the babies feeding filling the room. Claire took a sip of the coffee and felt the warm liquid go down her throat. It was good, strong, but good. "You need to eat too," Ryan said, breaking the silence. "I'll make eggs. Do you eat eggs?" Claire nodded, speechless. She couldn't understand why he was being so kind. Ryan went back to the kitchen, and Claire continued feeding the girls. When they finished, she put them in the carriage and went to the kitchen. Ryan was frying eggs, and there was toast in the toaster. "Can I help?" Claire asked. "You can sit down. It's almost ready." Claire hesitated, but obeyed. She sat at the table and watched Ryan cook. He moved around the kitchen efficiently, like someone used to doing things alone. When the food was ready, Ryan placed a plate in front of her. There were scrambled eggs, toast, and even some fruit. Claire ate slowly, savoring every bite. It had been so long since she had eaten a real meal. Ryan sat across from her with his own plate, but barely touched his food. He just watched her eat. "Thank you," Claire said again, after a few minutes. "For everything. For the food, for the place to sleep, for the formula. I don't know how to thank you," Ryan shrugged. "You don't need to thank me." They sat in silence for a few more minutes. Then Ryan spoke again, his voice low. "You don't have to leave today if you have nowhere to go." Claire looked up at him, surprised. But you said it was only for one night." "I know what I said, but it's Christmas and it's cold outside. You can stay a few more days, until you get organized." Claire felt a knot in her throat. She wanted to accept, but at the same time she was afraid. Afraid of getting used to it, afraid of having expectations, afraid that this would end and she would go back to the streets. "I can't abuse your kindness," she said softly. "It's not abuse. I'm offering." Claire looked at him, trying to understand his intentions, but all she saw in his eyes was sincerity. "Why are you doing this?" she asked. "You don't know me. You don't know anything about me." Ryan was silent for a moment, looking at the cup of coffee in his hands. "Then tell me." Claire hesitated. She didn't like talking about the past, about everything she had lost, but there was something about Ryan that made her feel she could trust him. "A year ago, I had a normal life," she began, her voice low. I was married. We had a small house but it was ours. We had been trying to have a baby for some time, and when I finally got pregnant, we found out they were twins. It was the best news of our lives." She paused, feeling the tears threatening to fall. "My husband was so happy. He started planning everything. He painted the girls' room, bought cribs, little clothes. He could hardly wait to meet them." Claire took a deep breath, trying to maintain her composure. "But he never had the chance. There was an accident at work. He was in the wrong place at the wrong time. He died instantly. I was 4 months pregnant." Ryan didn't say anything, just listened. "After he died, I found out we had debts. A lot of debts. I didn't know. He never told me. I tried to pay, but it was too much, and I was pregnant. I couldn't work. I lost the house 3 weeks ago. I was evicted." Claire wiped the tears that began to fall. "I don't have any family. My parents died when I was a teenager, and I grew up in foster homes. My husband didn't have family either. I tried asking for help, but the shelters were full, so no one wanted a pregnant woman with twins. And then they were born, and it got even harder." She looked at Ryan, her eyes full of tears. "I tried. I swear I tried. I looked for a job. I looked for help. I looked for anything. But no one gave me a chance. And then I ended up on the streets, trying to survive day after day." Ryan was silent for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice was filled with emotion. "I'm so sorry for what you went through. No one should have to go through that." Claire shrugged, wiping her tears. "But I did. And now I'm here depending on a stranger's kindness." "You're not depending," Ryan said. "I'm offering. There's a difference." Claire looked at him, and for the first time, she saw something in his eyes that went beyond kindness. There was respect there, admiration perhaps. "You are strong," Ryan said. "Stronger than most people I know. You went through all that and you're still fighting. You're still taking care of your daughters. That's impressive." Claire felt her face warm up. She didn't feel strong. She felt broken, exhausted, defeated. "I don't feel strong," she admitted, "but you are. Believe me." They sat in silence for a few more minutes. Then Claire spoke again. "If you let me stay a few more days, I'll help. I'll clean, cook, do whatever needs to be done. I don't want to just sit around." Ryan nodded. "That's fine, if it makes you feel better." And that's how it began. Claire stayed a few more days, but those days turned into a week. And during that week, she started becoming part of the routine of Ryan's apartment. She woke up early and made coffee. She fed the girls and put them in the crib while she cleaned the kitchen and living room. Ryan worked from home most of the time, locked in his office, but always came out to have lunch with her. Claire cooked. She loved to cook, and it had been so long since she had a real kitchen to use. She made simple but flavorful dishes, and Ryan always ate everything, praising every meal. Ryan watched everything attentively. He saw how Claire took care of the girls with such gentleness and patience. He saw how she cleaned the house, not because she had to, but because she seemed to genuinely enjoy taking care of things. He saw how she smiled when the babies did something cute, and how her eyes sparkled when she cooked. And he found himself admiring not only her strength, but also her sweetness, her care, and the sense of responsibility she possessed. One day, Ryan came home carrying shopping bags. Claire was in the living room, playing with the girls on the rug. She looked up when she saw him enter. "What's all this?" she asked. Ryan put the bags on the floor, diapers, and some clothes for the girls, and some toys. Claire quickly stood up and went to the bags. She opened one and saw packages upon packages of diapers. In the other bag, there were small onesies, socks, hats, all in light, soft colors. And there were also some soft toys, appropriate for babies. "Ryan, you didn't have to," Claire said, her voice choked. "I know, but I wanted to." Claire looked at him, her eyes full of tears. "I don't know how I'll pay for all this." "You don't have to pay. It's a gift. For the girls." Claire couldn't hold back the tears. She sat on the floor and started crying, all the emotions she had held back for the past few weeks finally pouring out. Ryan sat beside her, saying nothing. He just stayed there, his silent presence a comfort. After a few minutes, Claire calmed down and wiped her tears. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cry. You don't need to apologize. Claire looked at the bags again, still in disbelief. Why are you doing all this? She asked for the 1000th time. Ryan was silent for a moment, looking at the twins playing on the rug with their light, curious eyes. It's been a long time since I felt like taking care of someone, he finally said, his voice low. It's been a long time since I had someone to care for, and having you here, I don't know, it makes the house feel less empty. Claire looked at him, seeing the vulnerability in his eyes. Have you lived alone for a long time? Yes, many years. I focused on work, on building my company, on making money, but I never stopped to think about what I really wanted. And now, having you here, I realize how lonely I was. Claire felt her heart ache. She understood that loneliness. She had felt alone since she lost her husband, even with the girls. Thank you, she said softly, for everything, for giving us a chance. Ryan nodded, and for the first time, Claire saw a genuine smile on his face. Thank you for agreeing to stay. And in that moment, something changed between them. It was no longer just a stranger helping someone in need. It was the beginning of something deeper, something neither of them could yet name. Claire continued taking care of the house, cooking, cleaning, doing everything with dedication. And Ryan continued watching, admiring and slowly growing fond of not only Claire, but also little Emma and Lily, with their blonde hair and light eyes that shone with curiosity. The house, which was once silent and empty, was now full of life, full of baby laughs, the smell of home-cooked food, and the constant presence of someone who cared. And both Claire and Ryan began to realize that maybe, just maybe, they had found something they both needed, a place to belong. Claire woke up early that morning with a firm decision in her head. She had been living with Ryan for 2 weeks, and although he had never shown any signs that he wanted her to leave, Claire knew she couldn't continue depending on him forever. She needed to find a job, earn her own money, and regain her independence. She got up slowly so as not to wake the twins and went to the bathroom. She looked at herself in the mirror and saw a different version of the woman who had been found rummaging through trash 2 weeks ago. Her face had more color, her eyes were no longer so sunken, and her hair was clean and tidy. Ryan had bought new clothes for her a few days ago, saying it was so she would feel more comfortable. Claire had protested, but he insisted. She put on one of the new pairs of jeans and a simple but pretty blouse. She tied her hair in a ponytail and looked at herself in the mirror again. She looked like a normal person, someone employable. When she left the room, she found Ryan in the kitchen making coffee, as he always did. "Good morning," she said. "Morning," Ryan replied, looking at her. "Are you going out?" Claire nodded. "I'm going job hunting. It's time for me to start fending for myself." Ryan was silent for a moment, his expression impossible to read. "You don't have to rush out. You can stay as long as you need." "I know," Claire said, "and I'm very grateful for that, but I need to do this. I need to feel truly useful." Ryan nodded, but Claire noticed something in his eyes that looked like disappointment. "What about the girls?" he asked. Claire hesitated. That was the problem. She had no one to leave the babies with. "Sayesh, I'll have to take them with me. There's no other way." Ryan frowned. "That will make things difficult." "I know, but I have no choice." Ryan was silent, clearly thinking. Then he spoke. "I can stay with them." Claire looked at him in surprise. "What?" "I'm working from home today. I can look after them while you look for a job." Claire felt her heart ache. The offer was tempting, but she didn't want to take advantage of his kindness even more. "Ryan, you've already done so much for me. I can't ask that." "You're not asking. I'm offering. And besides," he shrugged, "I like them. It won't be a sacrifice." Claire looked at him, seeing the sincerity in his eyes, and she knew he was right. It would be much easier to look for a job without having to carry 2 babies. "Okay," she finally said, "but on one condition. Any problem, you call me, right?" "Right." Claire spent the morning showing Ryan everything about the girls' routine. When they needed to eat, how to prepare the bottles, how to change diapers, what to do if they started crying. Ryan listened attentively, asking questions when necessary. When Claire finally left the apartment, it was already past noon. She took the subway downtown and started walking the streets, going into every store, every restaurant, every office that had a hiring sign in the window. The first stop was a small coffee shop. Claire went in and asked to speak to the manager. A middle-aged woman appeared, looking Claire up and down. "Can I help you?" "I saw you're hiring. I'd like to leave my resume." The woman took the paper Claire held out and quickly glanced at it. "Do you have customer service experience?" "I do. I worked in a restaurant for 3 years before—" Claire hesitated. "Before I had to stop." "Why did you stop?" "I got pregnant, and then my husband passed away. I needed to step away." The woman's expression changed, becoming colder. "I see. And how many children do you have?" "2 twins, but they are only a few months old, and I—" "Sorry," the woman interrupted, handing back the resume. "We can't hire someone who might need to be constantly absent because of young children. Good luck." Claire left the coffee shop feeling a pang in her chest, but she couldn't give up. She headed to the next store, and to the next, and to the next. The story repeated itself. When she mentioned having young daughters, people lost interest. Some wouldn't even let her finish speaking. Others were more polite, but the result was always the same. "No, thank you." In a clothing store, the manager was direct. "Look, you seem like a good person, but I need someone reliable. Someone who won't be calling out every week because their child is sick or they don't have a sitter. Understand?" Claire understood. But that didn't make it any less frustrating. She kept trying. She went into a supermarket offering to work as a cashier. The manager seemed interested until she mentioned the twins. Then the interest disappeared. "With babies that age, you won't be able to keep a regular schedule," he said. "Sorry." Claire left the supermarket feeling the tears threatening to fall. She walked to a park bench and sat down, watching people pass by. Everyone seemed to have a destination, a purpose. She felt lost. She tried a few more places, a dry cleaner, a pharmacy, even a warehouse, but the answer was always the same. No. When the sun began to set, Claire gave up. She took the subway back, feeling defeated. All the confidence she had felt that morning had disappeared. When she arrived at the apartment, she found Ryan in the living room, sitting on the couch with one of the twins asleep in his lap. The other was in the portable crib he had set up next to the couch. The television was on low volume. Ryan looked up when she entered and immediately noticed her expression. "It didn't go well." Claire shook her head, feeling the tears she had held back all day finally fall. "No one wants me," she said, her voice breaking. "With 2 babies, no one will give me a chance." Ryan carefully placed the baby in the crib and stood up. He walked to Claire and without saying anything, pulled her into a hug. Claire let herself be embraced, crying on his shoulder. "I'm sorry," she said between sobs. I just wanted to be able to take care of myself. I wanted to prove I can provide for my daughters without depending on anyone." "You don't need to prove anything," Ryan said softly. "You're already taking care of them. And you're doing an incredible job." Claire pulled back a little, wiping her tears. "But I can't stay here forever, living on favors." "It's not a favor. You work here every day." Claire frowned. "What do you mean?" Ryan guided her to the couch, and they both sat down. "Claire, you clean the house and you cook, you take care of the girls, you keep everything organized. That's work, and you do it very well. But I do it because I'm living here. It's the least I can do." "No," Ryan said, his voice firm. "You're working here, and you deserve to be paid for it." Claire looked at him, confused. "What are you suggesting?" Ryan took a deep breath. "I want to pay you a salary for the work you're already doing." Claire opened her mouth to protest, but Ryan continued. "Before you arrived, I ate frozen food every day. The house was always a mess because I didn't have time to clean, and it was quiet, empty. But now, everything has changed. I come home and there's fresh food waiting. The house is clean and organized, and there's life here. There's laughter, there's movement, there's warmth." He looked into her eyes. "You are working here, Claire. You deserve to be paid, and it's not charity. It's fair." Claire felt the tears return, but this time they were different. They weren't of frustration or defeat, they were of gratitude. "I don't know what to say. Say yes." "Please." Claire looked at the twins sleeping in the crib, then at Ryan. How much? Ryan mentioned a figure that made Claire's eyes widen. It wasn't a fortune, but it was enough. More than enough. Ryan, that's too much. I can't accept that much. Yes, you can. It's what I would pay anyone to do what you do. In fact, I'd probably pay more. You take care of the house better than anyone I could hire. Claire was silent, processing everything. Part of her wanted to refuse, wanted to insist that she didn't need payment, but another part, the practical part, knew that she needed it. She needed her own money, her own security. Okay, she finally said. But with one condition. What? If at any point you want me to leave, or if this isn't working, you tell me. No beating around the bush. Agreed. Ryan nodded. Agreed. But it's not going to happen. Claire felt a smile appear on her face for the first time that day. Thank you, Ryan, seriously. You have no idea how much this means to me. Yes, I do. Because you deserve it. You're hardworking, dedicated, and you take care of everything with such care. I would be a fool not to acknowledge that. Claire wiped the last tears and looked around the room. She had cleaned that space. She had made that apartment a home. And now, finally, she would have a salary for it. She would have her independence, even if she was still living there. When do you want me to officially start? She asked. Ryan smiled. You already started, 2 weeks ago. Claire laughed, a light, genuine sound. So you owe me 2 weeks of salary. I'll transfer it tomorrow. They sat in silence for a few minutes, just watching the babies sleep. Lily stirred a little. Her blonde hair spread on the tiny pillow but didn't wake up. Emma sucked her thumb. Her light eyes closed in peace. How were they today? Claire asked. Good. Lily cried a little this morning, but stopped when I picked her up. Emma slept most of the time. They ate properly, and I changed their diapers without any disasters. Claire smiled. You did well. They are easy and adorable. Claire looked at Ryan and saw the softness in his expression as he looked at the girls. There was an affection there she hadn't seen before. Ryan was growing attached to the babies, and that warmed Claire's heart. Thank you for looking after them today, she said. I was nervous to leave them, but you did a great job. It was a pleasure, honestly. It's been a long time since I felt useful in that way. Claire tilted her head. What do you mean? Ryan sighed. I spend most of my days working, making money, doing business. But at the end of the day, everything feels empty. There's no one to share it with. No one who cares if I had a good day or not. But today, taking care of the girls, I felt needed, and it felt good. Claire felt her heart ache. She understood that feeling of loneliness. She had felt that way after she lost her husband. You are needed, she said softly. By me, by the girls. You saved us, Ryan. And not just that night. You keep saving us every day. Ryan looked at her, and for the first time, Claire saw real vulnerability in his eyes. Maybe you're saving me too. The moment hung in the air between them, full of unspoken meaning. Claire felt something stir in her chest, something she hadn't felt in a long time. But she pushed the thought away. It wasn't the time for that. I'm going to make dinner, she said, getting up. You must be hungry. I am, but let me help this time. You looked after the girls all day. I'll take care of dinner. Ryan smiled. All right, but tomorrow I'll help. Agreed. Claire went to the kitchen, feeling lighter than she had in weeks. She had a job now, she had a purpose. And she had a safe place for her daughters. As she prepared dinner, she heard Ryan playing with the twins in the living room. He was making funny voices, and she could hear the babies giggling. The sound filled the house with joy, and Claire smiled. Maybe things were finally starting to fall into place. Maybe, just maybe, she had found not only a place to live, but a place to belong. And for the first time since losing her husband, Claire felt hope. Hope that the future could be better. Hope that she and her daughters would be okay. When dinner was ready, she called Ryan to the table. They ate together, talking about the day, about the girls, about nothing and everything at the same time. It was simple, but it was good. And that night, after the twins were put to sleep and Claire went to her room, she lay in bed with a smile on her face. She had a job, she had a salary, she had security, and she had Ryan, who, without knowing it, was becoming much more than just an employer. He was becoming a friend a support, and maybe, someday, something more. But for now, this was enough. More than enough. The weeks went by, and a comfortable routine was established in the apartment. Claire woke up early, made coffee, took care of the girls, and organized the house. Ryan worked in the office, but always made sure to have meals with her. And in the evenings, after the twins were asleep, they started spending more time together. It was on one of those nights that everything began to change. Claire was on the couch, folding the girls' clothes, when Ryan came out of the office and sat down beside her. He picked up one of the little t-shirts and tried to fold it, making a complete mess. Claire laughed. "You're terrible at that." "I know," Ryan admitted, smiling. "I never had a knack for these things. Let me do it. You've been working all day." "So have you," Claire shrugged, but continued folding. Ryan just sat there, watching. "Can I ask you a question?" he said after a few minutes. "Of course. Do you miss him? Your husband?" Claire stopped folding for a moment, looking at the tiny piece of clothing in her hands. It was a question she hadn't expected, but she wasn't bothered. "I do," she said softly. "Every day, but not the way I did in the beginning. It's different now. It's more a longing for what could have been." Ryan nodded, saying nothing. "He was a good person," Claire continued. "Hard-working, dedicated. He was so happy when he found out about the girls. I just wish he'd had the chance to meet them. I'm sure he'd be proud of you, the way you take care of them." Claire felt a lump in her throat. "I hope so. Most days I feel like I'm just improvising, trying not to mess everything up." "You're not messing up anything. You're doing an amazing job." Claire smiled, grateful for the words. She finished folding the last item of clothing and put everything in the basket. "And you?" she asked. "Were you ever married? Did you have a serious relationship?" Ryan was silent for a moment, his expression becoming distant. "No, never came close to it." "Why?" He shrugged. "I was always focused on work. Building my company consumed all my years. I didn't have time for relationships. And now," Ryan looked at her, "now I realize that maybe I missed out on some important things along the way." Claire saw the sadness in his eyes and felt the urge to comfort him. "You built something impressive. Your company, your success. That has value." "It does. But at the end of the day, when I came home, there was no one waiting. No laughter, no hug, just silence." Claire understood perfectly. She had felt that loneliness after she lost her husband. But it didn't come for free, did it? The success. Ryan gave a bitter smile. "No. I came from a family with no money. My father worked construction. My mother cleaned houses. We barely had enough to eat some days. I saw my mother crying more times than I'd like to remember, worried about the bills." Claire listened intently, seeing a side of Ryan he had never shown. "I promised myself I would never go through that again, that I would work hard enough never to worry about money. And I succeeded, but in the process I distanced myself from everything. My parents passed away before they saw me really succeed, and I was left alone with all this money and no one to share it with." Claire placed her hand over his. "You're not alone anymore." Ryan looked at her hand on his, and then at her face. There was something in his eyes that Claire couldn't decipher. "No, I'm not. And I don't know if you realize how much that means to me." They stayed like that for a moment, just looking at each other. Then a soft cry came from the room, breaking the moment. Claire quickly stood up. "It's Lily. I'll go see what she needs." When she returned with the baby in her arms, Ryan was in the kitchen making tea. He brought 2 cups and sat next to Claire. "Is she okay?" he asked. "Her diaper was dirty. I've already changed it. I think she just wanted attention." Ryan smiled, looking at the blonde girl in Claire's arms. Lily's light eyes were open, observing everything around her with curiosity. "Can I hold her?" Ryan asked. "Of course." Ryan carefully picked up Lily, holding her against his chest. The baby looked at him for a moment, her light eyes studying his face, and then something magical happened. Lily smiled. It wasn't a reflex smile, those that babies make while sleeping. It was a conscious smile, directed specifically at Ryan. Her eyes sparkled, and she made a happy cooing sound. Ryan froze completely, looking at the baby with an expression of pure astonishment. She smiled at me, he said, his voice full of emotion. Claire felt her heart melt. That was her first conscious smile. And it was for you. Ryan continued to look at Lily, who was still smiling, now kicking her little legs with happiness. He gently ran his finger across her cheek, and the baby tried to grab his hand. "Hi, little one," Ryan whispered. "You are so beautiful." Claire watched the scene with a pang in her chest. Seeing Ryan with her daughter, so gentle and careful, affected her in a way she hadn't expected. In the following days, Ryan began spending even more time with the twins. He would come home from work and immediately go play with them. He made funny voices, sang songs he made up on the spot, and the babies loved it. Emma started trying to sit up on her own, and Ryan was there for every moment. He held her tiny hands, helping her balance, celebrating every small victory. "Look at that," he'd say, excited. "You managed to sit up for 3 seconds." Claire laughed at his enthusiasm, but was also touched. Ryan was becoming a part of the girls' lives in a way she never imagined. One night, Claire woke up to a noise coming from the living room. She got up and went to check, finding Ryan sitting on the couch with Emma in his lap. The baby was crying softly, and Ryan was gently rocking her. "Sorry," he said when he saw Claire. "I heard her cry and came to check. I didn't want to wake you. I think she was having a bad dream." Claire sat down beside him. "It's okay. Thank you for coming." "You don't need to thank me." They sat there, rocking Emma until she calmed down and fell back asleep. Ryan continued to hold the baby, not wanting to put her back in the crib yet. "You're good with them," Claire said softly. "I try. They are special." "They are indeed." Ryan looked at Claire, his expression serious. "I've grown attached to them, very much, and to you too." Claire felt her heart race. "Me too." "To you. When you arrived here that Christmas night, I had no idea how much my life would change. I just wanted to help someone in need. But now I can't imagine my life without the 3 of you here." Claire felt her eyes fill with tears. "Ryan, you don't have to say anything now. I just wanted you to know." He carefully stood up, still holding Emma, and put her back in the crib. Lily slept beside her, her blonde hair spread on the tiny pillow. Ryan looked at the 2 of them for a long moment. "They look so much like you," he said. "They have your strength, I see it in them." Claire moved closer, standing beside him. "And they're lucky to have you. Even if you're not their father, you take care of them as if you were." Ryan put his arm around Claire's shoulders, pulling her close in a side hug. She rested her head on his shoulder, and they stayed like that, watching the babies sleep. It was a simple moment, but loaded with meaning. A family was forming there, even if neither of them wanted to admit it yet. A chosen family, built on kindness, care, and an affection that grew stronger every day. "Thank you," Claire whispered, "for everything. Thank you for bringing life into this house, for showing me what I was missing." They went back to the living room, but neither of them wanted to go to sleep yet. They talked late, sharing stories, quiet laughs, and confidences they wouldn't normally share with anyone. Claire spoke a little more about her husband, about the good times they had together. Ryan talked about his difficult childhood, about how he had to fight for everything he had. And slowly, without realizing it, they were building something solid, a foundation of trust, respect, and affection that went far beyond employer and employee. It was friendship, it was family, and maybe, just maybe, it was becoming something more. Saturday dawned cold, but the sky was clear and blue. Ryan walked into the kitchen where Claire was preparing breakfast and leaned against the counter. "How about we go out today?" he suggested. Claire looked at him, surprised. "Go out?" "Yes. There's a park not too far from here. It's wooded, peaceful. I thought it would be good for the girls to get some fresh air. And for us too." Claire hesitated for a moment. It had been weeks since she had left the apartment other than for trips to the market. The idea was tempting. "Is it too cold?" "It's chilly, but nothing unbearable. We'll all bundle up well," Claire smiled. "Okay, that sounds like a good idea." After coffee, they got ready. Claire dressed the twins in thick onesies, wool hats and tiny mittens. She herself put on her warmest coat and a scarf. Ryan appeared with a heavy coat and a backpack. I packed water, snacks, extra diapers, he explained. Everything we might need. Claire felt her heart warm at his thoughtfulness. Ryan always thought of everything. They left the apartment and took Ryan's car. The drive was short, about 20 minutes until they reached an area further from the city center. The park was exactly as Ryan had described, peaceful, with tall trees and paved trails. Ryan took the double stroller out of the trunk, something he had bought the previous week without telling Claire. She protested when she saw it, but he insisted that the girls needed a proper stroller. They placed Emma and Lily in the stroller, well bundled and comfortable. The babies looked around with their light, curious eyes, amazed by the change of scenery. "Ready for a stroll, girls?" Ryan said, adjusting the blanket over them. Lily made a happy cooing sound in response, and Ryan smiled. They started walking slowly along the main trail. The air was cold, but not uncomfortably so. The sun filtered through the branches of the trees, creating patterns of light and shadow on the ground. There were few people in the park, just a few runners and couples walking. "It's beautiful here," Claire said, looking around. "I used to come here when I needed to think," Ryan shared. "When work got too stressful, I would take the car and come here, just to walk and clear my head." "How long has it been since you came?" Ryan thought for a moment. "A couple of years. I stopped having time for it. And now," he looked at her and smiled, "now I have better reasons to go out." They continued walking unhurriedly. The pace was slow, leisurely, allowing them to simply enjoy the moment. Every now and then, Ryan would stop to point something out to the girls. A bird in a tree, colorful leaves on the ground, the water of a small lake in the distance. "Look, Emma," he'd say, pointing. "Did you see the little bird? Right there on that branch." Emma followed the direction of his finger with her eyes, trying to understand what he was showing her. Lily just looked at Ryan with adoration, as she always did. Claire watched everything with a smile on her face. Seeing Ryan so involved with her daughters still surprised her. He was so natural with them, so patient and affectionate. After a while, they found a bench facing the lake and decided to sit down. Ryan took out his backpack and pulled out a thermos with hot chocolate. "I made it before we left," he explained, pouring it into 2 mugs. Claire took the mug with both hands, feeling the warmth through the material. She took a sip and sighed contentedly. "It's perfect." They sat in silence for a few minutes, just observing the scenery. The twins had fallen asleep in the stroller, lulled by the motion of the walk. "You know," Ryan began, "I really enjoy our conversations." Claire looked at him. "Me too. You have a calmness I don't find in anyone else, a clarity. Every time we talk, I leave feeling like I understand things better. I understand myself better." Claire felt her face flush. "I don't do anything special. I just listen." "But you truly listen. You're not just waiting for your turn to speak. You really pay attention, absorb, think about what I say. It's rare to find someone like that." Claire didn't know what to reply. She took another sip of the hot chocolate, trying to process his words. "I feel at ease with you," she finally admitted. "I don't have to pretend to be someone I'm not. You see the real me, not just a desperate mother you found on the street. You respect me, and that means a lot." Ryan turned to face her. "You deserve respect. You deserve much more than the world has given you so far." Claire felt her eyes fill with tears, but they were good tears, tears of gratitude. "Thank you for everything, for this day, for these weeks, for not giving up on me. I'll never give up on you, or the girls." They looked at each other for a long moment, something unspoken hanging in the air between them. Then Ryan looked away, returning to watching the lake. "Shall we walk a little more?" he suggested. "Let's." They continued their walk, exploring other trails in the park. Claire found herself laughing at simple things. Ryan trying to imitate bird sounds, the way he talked to the babies as if they were adults, the way he worried about keeping everyone warm and comfortable. It was a simple day. Nothing extraordinary was happening, but somehow it was perfect. It was exactly what everyone needed. When it started to get colder, they decided to return to the apartment. In the car, Emma and Lily continued sleeping, tired from the walk. Claire looked out the window, feeling a peace she hadn't felt in a long time. "Thank you for today," she said softly. "It was a pleasure. We can do this more often if you want." "I'd really like that." When they arrived at the apartment, Ryan carried the stroller with the babies still sleeping, trying not to wake them. Claire opened the door and they entered in silence. Ryan placed the stroller in the living room, and Claire began taking off her coat. It was then that she noticed some mail on the table, probably delivered while they were out. "I'll organize this," she said, picking up the envelopes. Ryan had gone to the kitchen to make tea. Claire started separating the mail, putting bills on one side and personal letters on the other. It was then that she picked up a large envelope and saw the header, Morrison Industries. Claire stopped breathing. Her hands began to tremble, and she felt the world spin around her. She knew that name. She knew it very well. "Ryan," she called out, her voice sounding strange. He appeared from the kitchen. "Yes." Claire held the envelope, pointing to the header. Is this your company?" Ryan frowned. "It is. Morrison Industries." "Why?" Claire felt the tears begin to fall. "My husband, he worked for this company. He was working there when he had the accident." The silence that followed was heavy, laden with shock and emotion. Ryan froze completely, processing the information. "What? Morrison Industries?" Claire repeated, her voice breaking. "My husband, David, he was working on the construction of one of your buildings. That's where the accident happened. A beam fell. He died instantly." Ryan felt as if he had been punched in the stomach. He remembered that day, a little over a year ago. There had been an accident at one of the construction sites. A man had died. Ryan had gone to the funeral, had talked to the family, had ensured that all costs were covered, but he didn't remember the pregnant widow. There were so many people, so much grief. "Claire, I didn't know, I had no idea." Claire placed the envelope on the table, her hands shaking. "I know. You couldn't have known. It's a large company. You didn't know all the employees. But I should have. I should have remembered you." "No," Claire said, wiping her tears. "There were a lot of people that day, and I was so lost in my grief that I could barely speak. It's not your fault." Ryan sat down in a chair, running his hands over his face. The revelation had completely shaken him. He was working for me on my project and he died. It was an accident, Ryan. No one was to blame. But he was there because of me, and you were left alone, pregnant, with nothing. Claire sat down beside him. "And you found me. That Christmas night. Out of all the people on the street, all the corners of the city, you found me. That can't be a coincidence." Ryan looked at her, his eyes full of emotion. "I don't believe in destiny. I never have. Me neither. But this seems bigger than us, as if the universe was trying to fix something, or connect something that was supposed to be connected." They sat in silence for a long moment, just processing the magnitude of the revelation. Ryan's company, Claire's husband, the accident, the meeting on the street. Everything was linked in a way neither of them could have imagined. "Claire, I'm so sorry. Truly sorry. If I could go back in time and change what happened—" "No," she interrupted, taking his hand. "Don't say that. What happened was terrible, but it brought me here. It brought me to you. And in some strange way, I feel like it was meant to be." Ryan squeezed her hand. "You don't blame me." "No, never. It was an accident. And you've done more for me and my daughters than anyone else. You gave us a home, security, affection. How could I blame you for something that was a terrible accident?" Ryan felt a tear roll down his face. It was the first time Claire had seen him cry. "I just wish things had been different for you, that you hadn't gone through all that." "Me too. But we can't change the past. We can only move forward. And I am moving forward, and with you, if you still want to." Ryan looked at her, and then pulled her into a hug. Claire let herself be enveloped, feeling his strength and warmth. "Of course I want to," he whispered. "You three are the best thing that has ever happened in my life." They stayed like that for a long time, just holding each other. The weight of the revelation was still there, but along with it was something more. an understanding that their lives were intertwined in a deep and meaningful way. When they finally separated, both had red eyes, but also a sense of peace. As if a mystery had been revealed, a missing piece had been found. "Is our agreement still on?" Claire asked. "Even knowing this?" "Of course it is. This doesn't change anything. If anything, it just makes everything more right. As if it was meant to be this way from the start." Claire smiled through her tears. "So I feel the same way." They went to the kitchen together and prepared dinner. The twins woke up and were fed, and the evening proceeded normally, or as normally as possible after such a profound revelation. But there was something different now, an even deeper connection between them. A feeling that their lives had not crossed by chance, but by something greater. Something neither of them could explain, but which they both felt in their hearts. And that night, when Claire lay in bed, she thought about everything. The accident, the grief, the loss, the streets, the despair, and then Ryan, appearing like an angel on that cold Christmas night, the same person whose company her husband worked for. It wasn't a coincidence. It couldn't be. It was something bigger, and for the first time since losing her husband, Claire felt that maybe, just maybe, there was a plan, a purpose, a reason for everything, and that purpose had Ryan's name. The days following the revelation about the company were strange, but in a good way. It was as if the truth had created a bridge between Claire and Ryan, connecting them in a way that went beyond mere cohabitation. They talked more, shared more, and the tension that had once hung in the air had transformed into something lighter and more natural. Claire started getting more organized. She created a more structured routine for the twins, with set times for naps, meals, cat and playtime. She bought a notebook and started writing everything down. What worked, what didn't. The girls, small progress. Emma was getting stronger, managing to sit up for longer periods. Lily had started rolling from side to side, exploring the world around her with curiosity. Claire recorded every achievement, every small victory. Ryan observed everything with admiration. He saw how dedicated Claire was, how she strived not only to take care of the girls, but to rebuild her life. She wasn't just surviving. She was being reborn. One afternoon, while Claire was organizing the babies, clothes by size and season, Ryan entered the room and sat in the chair beside her. "You're doing an incredible job with them," he said. Claire smiled, but continued folding. "I'm trying. Sometimes I feel like I'm still learning. All parents are always learning, but you have something special. A dedication, a strength. It's impressive." Claire stopped folding and looked at him. "Thank you. That means a lot coming from you." Ryan was silent for a moment, as if he was choosing the right words. "Claire, I know you like to feel useful, to contribute, and you do that every day here. But I also know you need more than that. You need to feel independent, capable, not just sheltered." Claire nodded slowly. It was true. As grateful as she was for everything, she missed having something of her own, something that was just hers. "I understand," she said, "and I appreciate everything you do, but yes, I would like to have something more. Something beyond taking care of the house." Ryan leaned forward, his elbows resting on his knees. "I want to support you in that. I want you to be able to work again, if that's what you want, but in a way that works for you and the girls, with dignity and autonomy." Claire felt her heart race. "How so?" "I was thinking, you don't have to go out to work rigid hours. Not now, with the girls still so small, but there are other options. Remote work, part-time, something you can do from home or with flexible hours." Claire considered his words. The idea was tempting. "What do you have in mind?" "You like to cook, right? I saw how your eyes light up when you're in the kitchen." Claire smiled. "Yes, I always have. Before I got married, I worked in a bakery. I loved making cakes, bread, desserts. What if you did that again? But your way, you could start small, taking orders from home, cakes for parties, artisanal bread, desserts. I can help with the initial investment, with equipment, with promotion." Claire felt a wave of emotion. The idea of returning to something she loved, but on her own terms, was more than she could have hoped for. You think I can do it? Ryan took her hand. I completely believe it. You are talented, dedicated, and you have a natural ability. And best of all, you can do it from home at your own pace and while taking care of the girls. Claire felt her eyes fill with tears. I don't know what to say. It's more than I imagined. You don't have to decide now, think about it, but know that I'm here to support you, whatever you decide to do. Claire squeezed his hand. Thank you for believing in me, for seeing my potential when I can't see it myself. I always see it. Since the first day. They stayed like that for a moment, hands intertwined, looking at each other. Then Lily started whimpering in the crib, breaking the moment. Claire let go of his hand and went to tend to the baby. But her heart was lighter than it had been in a long time. There was hope now. Hope for a future where she would not just be a mother struggling to survive, but a complete person with dreams and ambitions. In the following days, Claire and Ryan started planning. They researched permits, necessary equipment, and how to promote the work. Ryan suggested she start by making cakes for his friends and acquaintances, gradually building a clientele. Claire was excited about the project. She started testing, creating recipes, experimenting with flavors. Ryan was always the first to try, giving honest feedback and generous praise. This is incredible, he would say, eating a slice of chocolate cake. Seriously, Claire, people are going to love it. Claire smiled, feeling a satisfaction that went beyond his approval. It was the satisfaction of doing something she loved, of creating something with her own hands. Weeks passed, and the routine continued. Claire took care of the girls, the house, and began working on her small business. Ryan supported her in everything, from looking after the twins while she cooked to helping package the products. And slowly, something more was growing between them. Something neither of them wanted to admit yet, but which was becoming increasingly impossible to ignore. One night, after the girls were asleep, Claire and Ryan were sitting on the couch, each with a cup of tea. The television was on low volume, but neither of them was paying attention. "Claire?" Ryan said suddenly, breaking the comfortable silence. "Yes?" He placed his cup on the side table and turned to face her. There was something in his expression that made Claire's heart race. "I need to tell you something." Claire also put her cup aside, giving him her full attention. "Go ahead." Ryan took a deep breath, as if preparing for something important. "I spent most of my life alone, by choice most of the time. I never felt like I needed anyone. I never felt like I was missing something by being alone." He paused, searching for the right words. "And then you showed up, you and the girls. And suddenly, my house wasn't just a house anymore. It was a home. It had life. It had laughter. It had warmth. And I realized that everything I had built, all the money I had earned, meant nothing if I didn't have someone to share it with." Claire felt her throat tighten. She knew where this conversation was going, and her heart was beating so hard she was sure he could hear it. "Ryan, let me finish," he asked, with a nervous smile. "Sis, I never found someone I truly wanted to build a family with. I never felt that urge, that desire, until I met you." Claire felt the tears begin to fall. "You made me want things I never thought I wanted. You made me imagine a future that wasn't just me and my work. A future with you, with Emma, with Lily. A future as a real family." He took her hand, intertwining their fingers. "I feel good by your side, Claire. More than good. I feel complete, and I know this might seem too soon, and maybe you don't feel the same, but I needed to tell you. I want to try to build something together if you want to, too." Claire couldn't speak. The emotions were overwhelming, flooding her chest in a way she didn't know was possible. She had lost so much, had suffered so much, and now she was there, with a man who not only welcomed her in her most difficult moment, but who saw her, who valued her, who wanted a future with her. "I feel the same," she finally managed to say, her voice choked. "I've been feeling it for weeks, but I was afraid to admit it, afraid I was imagining things or being ungrateful, or that I would mess everything up." Ryan squeezed her hand. "You're not imagining anything, and you could never mess anything up. You made everything better." Claire let out a watery laugh, wiping her tears with her free hand. I never thought I would feel this again. After losing my husband, I thought that part of me had died with him. But you showed me that I can still feel, still dream, still love." Ryan leaned in, drying a tear that rolled down her cheek with his thumb. "So, can we try together?" Claire nodded, smiling through her tears. "Yes, I want to try." Ryan smiled, a true, radiant smile that lit up his entire face. He pulled Claire close, hugging her tightly. She let herself be enveloped, feeling his security and warmth. "I will take care of you," Ryan whispered in her ear, "of you and the girls forever if you let me." "I want that," Claire replied. "Well, I want you. I want this." They stayed embraced for a long time, just feeling each other's presence. It was intimate, it was sincere, and it was the beginning of something new and beautiful. When they finally separated, both were smiling. Ryan put his arm around Claire's shoulders, pulling her close as they leaned back on the couch. She rested her head on his shoulder, feeling a peace she hadn't felt in a long time. "How are we going to do this?" she asked softly. "With the girls, with everything." "Our way," Ryan replied. "No rush, no pressure, just being ourselves, building something solid day by day." Claire smiled. "I like that. Me too." They stayed like that late into the night, talking about the future, about dreams, about plans. Claire talked about eventually expanding her baking business, maybe having a small shop someday. Ryan talked about spending more time at home, about being more present, about being the father that Emma and Lily deserved. "Will they call you Dad?" Claire asked, her voice full of emotion. Ryan looked at her, his eyes shining. "If you let them, if they want to, I would love that. They already love you. You are already their father in everything but name." Ryan felt his chest tighten with emotion. "And I love them as if they were mine." Since the first day, Claire kissed his cheek, a simple gesture but loaded with meaning. "We are a family now, for real." "Yes," Ryan agreed. "We are." And that night, sitting on the couch, planning the future, they both knew they had found something rare and precious. It hadn't been an easy path, and it hadn't started in the traditional way. But it was real, it was strong, and it was theirs. Claire had lost so much, but now she was gaining everything back. A home, a family, a future. And Ryan, who had spent years building a life empty of meaning, now had everything that truly mattered. Love doesn't have to follow a script. It doesn't have to happen the way fairy tales say. Sometimes it appears on the cold streets of a Christmas Eve, in the gentle gestures of a stranger, in the small moments of care and affection, and sometimes, just sometimes, it transforms into something eternal. When they finally went to sleep, each in their own room, both went with smiles on their faces and hope in their hearts. The future was full of possibilities now, and they would build it together, one day at a time, with love, patience, and dedication. It was the beginning of a new chapter, for Claire, for Ryan, and for the two little blonde girls with light eyes who slept peacefully in their crib, unaware that their lives were about to become even more full of love. A chosen family, a built family, a true family. And it was perfect. 6 months had passed since that night when Ryan opened his heart. 6 months of subtle but profound changes that completely transformed everyone's lives. Claire had secured a part-time job at a cozy coffee shop just 2 blocks from the apartment. The owner, a kind woman named Margaret, was charmed by Claire's baking skills and offered a flexible schedule that allowed her to balance work with caring for the twins. Claire worked 3 mornings a week, making bread and sweets for the cafe, and Ryan stayed with the girls during that time. The home baking business was also growing. Claire received regular orders for party cakes, and her reputation was spreading by word of mouth. She had even created a small social media account to promote her work, and orders increased every week. The apartment had completely changed. The walls that were once white and empty were now filled with photos of the twins. Emma and Lily smiling, sleeping, playing, always with their blonde hair and light eyes sparkling with joy. There were photos of the 3 of them together too, Ryan holding the babies, Claire laughing in the kitchen, simple but precious moments captured in time. Colorful toys were scattered across the living room, and the constant smell of home-cooked food filled the air. The apartment was no longer a minimalist, silent space. It was a real house, full of life and love. Ryan continued to work hard, but he had changed his priorities. He no longer stayed late at the office. He made a point of having lunch at home every day, sharing the meal with Claire and the girls. The conversations were always full of affection, plans for the future, and little stories from the day. Emma almost crawled today, Claire recounted excitedly during lunch. She stayed in position for about 5 seconds before collapsing. Ryan smiled, proud. Soon she'll be running around. And Lily too. Don't remind me, Claire laughed. I'm already mentally preparing for when both of them start walking. The twins were almost 9 months old now and were growing fast. Lily was already crawling everywhere, exploring every corner of the house with curiosity. Emma was almost managing it, determined to catch up with her sister. They babbled constantly, trying to form words, and Ryan swore Lily had already said Dada once, although Claire insisted it was just a random noise. But Ryan didn't care. To him, they were already his daughters. In his heart, they always would be. One Saturday afternoon, Ryan came home from the office early. He had only spent a few hours there, dealing with urgent matters, and was eager to return home. When he parked the car and entered through the side gate that led to the small ground-floor garden, he heard laughter. He stopped and looked, and what he saw filled his heart with warmth. Claire was sitting on the grass, barefoot, in a light summer dress. Emma and Lily were around her, both crawling and exploring the grass. Claire was blowing soap bubbles, and the girls tried to catch them, giggling every time the bubbles popped. The sunlight filtered through the trees, creating a golden glow around them. The twins' blonde hair shone, and Claire smiled with a genuine happiness that lit up her entire face. Ryan stood there, just watching. His chest swelled with an emotion so strong he could barely breathe. That simple scene, that ordinary moment, was everything he never knew he needed. Claire looked up and saw him. Her smile grew even wider. "You're home early." Ryan walked to them slowly, still absorbing the scene. He knelt on the grass next to Claire, and immediately Emma crawled towards him, placing her little hands on his knee. "Dada," she babbled, looking up at him with her light eyes. Ryan felt his eyes fill with tears. He picked up Emma, kissing her forehead. "Hi, my little one." Lily also approached, wanting attention. Ryan picked her up with his other arm, holding both girls against his chest. They laughed, pulling at his tie and touching his face with their curious little hands. Claire watched everything with a soft smile. Seeing Ryan with her daughters always melted her heart. Ryan carefully placed the babies back on the grass and turned to Claire. He looked into her eyes, his expression serious but full of love. "You gave me a home, Claire. Something I didn't even know was missing." Claire felt her eyes well up. "And you gave me a chance to start over, to be more than just a survivor. You showed me that I could live again, love again." Ryan took her hand, intertwining their fingers. "I love you." "I love you and these girls more than I thought it was possible to love anyone." Claire let out a watery laugh, tears streaming down her face. "I love you too, so much." They leaned in, and Ryan kissed her forehead tenderly. It wasn't a passionate or dramatic kiss. It was simple, gentle, full of promise and commitment. Emma and Lily, sensing they were being left out, crawled towards them. Emma pulled at the hem of Claire's dress, and Lily climbed onto Ryan's lap. They both started laughing, and soon Ryan and Claire were laughing too, pulling the girls into a big hug. There, sitting on the grass under the golden sunlight, they were a family. Not in the traditional way, not in the way the books tell it, but they were a real family, built on choice, care, and true love. It hadn't been a fairy tale. Claire had gone through the unimaginable pain of losing her husband, the humiliation of being on the streets, the despair of not knowing how to feed her daughters. Ryan had spent years alone, building a life empty of real meaning, unaware of what he was missing. But that cold Christmas night, when their paths crossed, everything started to change. Step by step, day by day, they built something solid, something that wasn't perfect but was theirs. Claire learned to trust again, to accept help, to allow herself to be loved. Ryan learned to open his heart, to put people before work, to find joy in the small moments. And together, they created a home, a place where Emma and Lily could grow up surrounded by love and security, a place where the past did not define the future, where every day was a new opportunity to build something beautiful. The love there didn't need to be declared with grand words or dramatic gestures. It was in the shared meals, the spontaneous hugs, the laughter of the girls. It was in the way Ryan always checked if Claire had eaten, in the way Claire left sweet notes for him to find. It was in the glances exchanged across the room, in the silent synchronization of those who know and deeply understand each other. That afternoon, sitting in the garden, there was no need for more words. They knew what they had. They knew what they had built together. A chosen family. A family that did not begin with blood ties, but that was as strong as any other. A family built with patience, dedication, and true love. And as the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, Ryan looked at Claire and the girls and knew, with absolute certainty, that he was exactly where he was supposed to be. There was no more loneliness, no more emptiness. There was only love, joy, and the promise of many happy days ahead. And that, Ryan thought as he held Claire with one arm and the twins with the other, was more than enough. It was everything. Not all love stories start in the traditional way. Some begin on cold streets, in moments of despair, when everything seems lost. But it is precisely these stories, those built with care and dedication, that become the strongest and truest. This is the story of Claire and Ryan, of Emma and Lily, and of how four people found each other when they needed it most. And together, they created not just a house, but a home, a chosen home, built with true love. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next ones. Leave a like because it helps this story get recommended to more people. See you in the next story.